feel very fortunate to have you on as our first real. I guess you're an international star at this point. I mean, you're.
I think it's called celebrity.
He's a celebrity.
Celebrity guest.
Yeah, so our first celebrity guest, because the other guests have just been us practicing.
Right. Pretending we're celebrities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. You know, I'm sort of an unknown celebrity. I mean, most of the things I've done on film have been under makeup, so I'm very, people know characters I've done a lot more than they know my face. That's for sure.
Right. Well, let me ask you, talking about this, because this is what I was trying to think when I was trying to put this show together, is I've known you since 1983, and when I knew you in 1983, you were just a little punk rock kid,
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. I think we all were little punk rock kids. I was probably more of a new wave homo, but sometimes maybe, but.
You were a promiscuous pee-pee.
I was a promiscuous maybe, yeah. So
yeah, that was your band. But I mean, my buddy Nick Lamagna, rest his soul, who passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
We had a punk band, RF7 in LA, and did a lot of recording and playing for maybe 3 or 4 years. I mean, from '79 till we met you when we had broken up that band, and we spent our days in punk rock playing with the likes of Dead Kennedys and Social Distortion and Circle Jerks and 45 Grave and Bad Religion and you name it. It was sort of that peak of punk LA era, late 70s, early 80s, and Red Cross, another band, and then that became old to us. That kind of, we did our thing in that, and that whole scene became very different than it. We hit it sort of at its third stage, and it still seemed like a communal type of thing, and that there were only like certain people who kind of knew about it. It was still kind of a secret scene in a way,
Yeah.
It was getting bigger by the week, though, at that point. By, say, 82, 83.
Yeah.
And, at one point it became so violent, and it became very, it became like America, where everybody had their own little separate, ideas of what they thought punk should be. Like, people think, well, they're stupid ideas of what they think America should be,
Right.
And, it got too much for us, and we decided to put on some makeup and grow our hair and become gypsies, which was mostly, that's when we met you. And, right, I'm not sure how Nick met you, though. He gets you out of the...
we lived in the same building in Hollywood.
But wasn't the Music Connection we found you in?
Say that again?
Didn't you have an ad in Music Connection?
Oh, yeah, that's right, looking for a band. I had a band, and it had broken up, and I was looking to do something else, and I hardly knew anyone in California then. I'd only lived here since '82, so I put an ad in and got Nikki.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's how we met. And Nikki
and
I
we found
became
Alan Euxter, who was a strange New York guy.
Yeah, another
keyboard player.
Another former. He's not here with us anymore, but.
Yeah, another former liver.
Yeah, we've actually
he got hit by a car years and years ago, long time ago.
Yeah, he was hit by a car when
he was chasing a piece of paper in the street. He was an odd bird.
He was
big, tall, lanky guy with 1,000 keyboards and cords wrapped around his neck. And
yeah,
I remember we played for Bang Bang, and we opened for Bang Bang.
Yeah.
Remember that? We were at FM station, I think.
Yeah.
And 2 seconds before we were supposed to play, Alan fell off the stage, and he had wires wrapped around his head. He was always half drunk and on pills. And it was pretty crazy. But those are some fun times. I mean, Cold September, we did pretty well as a band.
Yeah, we did, surprisingly well, I thought. I mean, we had an album out by 1986,
Yeah.
Is when the album came out. And the album is still, he just bought it.
I did. Actually bought one online, and I got one of the white vinyl albums.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
How much you pay for that?
I think it was like 20 something, $30, somewhere around.
Oh, okay. Oh, well.
20 and not 20 or 30,000, just 20 or 30.
Right, it was $20, $30.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's
plus
cool.
shipping and
Yeah, I have a couple of those laying around somewhere.
the white vinyl.
Yeah, white vinyl, and I also have the test pressing. A couple of them. And my nephew, who's a musician, Matthew Stolars, I gave him those test pressings and the vinyl one, and he has a buddy, and they dump everything digital and like separate everything into its own tracks, and because that recording is not great, and then the mastering on it is so low budget and everything. It's still a cool album to me. But my nephew Matthew, that was really inspirational to him when he was learning how to play music.
Yeah.
And it's one of his favorite things. And
he's called
it's kind of it's a quirky album. I mean, it's sort of in a death rock genre, but it's not. That's a quirky little album, I think.
There's one song on there I really, really like. Which one is that, Joe? The super catchy one.
Hush, Hush, Sweet Charlotte?
Yeah. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Not Don Wingert's song.
No. Well, the band had a lot of members over the years, and we've lost quite a few of them. I mean, we've lost member Stevie Phelps. Nigel Phelps, we lost him.
Okay, so I followed him for a while on like Facebook and stuff, and then I haven't seen anything about him in a long time, so he's gone, huh?
Yeah, he's been gone for a few years now.
I think he had diabetes or something.
He what?
Didn't he have diabetes?
He did, and I think he was looking at they were getting ready to do some radical surgery on him, like he was going to lose his legs, and I think he just said, I'm done with this,
Yeah.
And that's what he did. I've been in touch with his daughter, who was like, I met her when she was 2 years old, and now she's all grown up and beautiful woman. Runs an ER emergency room somewhere up in, I guess, wherever they're from. Seattle or somewhere. She runs that. So I've been trying to get her down here to, I want to see her again. I mean, it's been a long time. And talk to her about her dad. So hopefully that'll happen soon.
Who is her mother?
Yeah, she's a very interesting person. She was a very wild teenager. I know that. And now she's settled down quite a bit. But haven't we all, sort of?
Yeah.
So, he hasn't. But the rest of us have. And then
Donnie, who kind of disappeared.
Yeah. So, Cold September, we went on. What did we do? We didn't. I always call the Cold September always the bridesmaid, never the bride, because we always got to open for a lot of bands, and we got. We were doing pretty good.
A lot of big bands. I mean, that was back when there was the Scream Club, which was an underground club that would move every time or every couple weeks. Remember that?
Yep.
And I remember playing and going into that Scream Club sometimes and just being like overwhelmed by the amount of people that were going in.
Yeah.
We were opening for Jane's Addiction and Love and Rockets and bands like that. That was quite a time.
That was. We were opening for Jane's Addiction. We played their first show. We opened their first show.
We did. We opened a few shows for them, I remember.
Yeah.
Because I remember Ricky Rockman being their manager and ended up booking a few shows with them.
Yep.
And then one where we ended up breaking up or something, because whatever.
Of course we did.
Everybody was high and drunk and high and fucked up.
That was kind of mandatory back then, I think.
I know.
Isn't it still? I don't think that's
it still is. I'm sure.
Right.
So
a younger man.
We had a good. We had actually had a. It was a good little career there, and
it was a good run.
and we're still, we're still kind of sort of around. People still ask us, "Are we ever going to do a reunion?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so.
No.
I said, I don't think I can sing.
It's like the RF7 thing. I mean, Nick's gone now, so is that ever happening again? Felix always wonders. Felix Alanis. It's like, nah.
Yeah.
Not for me.
So anyway, okay. So Cold September was cool. But we had a lifetime, and it ended, and then we all moved on. And you were already in a band.
I quit music after that. I'd had it.
Done, huh?
I'd had that. That was enough bands. I'm not making it. Nothing's happening.
Right.
But it was only a few months, maybe 2 or 3 months, and then Donnie Wingard called me.
Right.
And said, "Hey, you want to play bass in this band?" And I was like, you want to play drums in this band? And I was like, okay. That was World's End.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had a little run, too. We were doing pretty well, playing a lot of these KNAC big shows, and never really got around to recording. And then the kid who was the lead singer and writer, it was, I don't know, there was too many emotional things going on with that band, so.
Yeah.
That, of course, ended again.
Yeah.
And I quit again.
And then through this whole thing, there's the band RF7. Right?
Yeah, Rich comes and goes throughout, yeah.
Yeah, they
we
were
get
there.
back together, we recorded an album, we play a few shows, and then
Yeah.
nothing for a few years, yeah.
Well,
Which stayed
RF7.
consistent up until, right before Nicky passed away.
Yeah. RF7 was around before Cold September and was around after Cold September. It ran for a long time. Felix, the singer of your band, is still doing things on RF7 that I love reading. I love reading the history of RF7. So, anyway, so that happened. And then some other things happened. Things changed. Years went by. Nick Lamagna, our guitar player and songwriter, main songwriter, just became this I don't know what to call it. He was doing stuff with everyone. You know what I mean? He was writing songs for everyone, things like that.
Yeah.
So, and then
doing it on solo stuff.
Yeah, did a lot of solo. He started that what was the one band he was doing? Brain Washington or something like that.
No, that was the TVs.
TVs, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, and I played with the band at the beginning for a while, and helped work out some of that stuff on the first album. And we were doing shows. That was a really fun thing. Then they fired me for some reason. I don't know.
What was your role in that band? Was it drums or bass?
Playing drums.
Playing drums? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Walter, you're known as a very good drummer. You have a reputation as a very good drummer. Always have had a reputation as a very good drummer. And I think someone said one time, and I just remember this, I never forgot it, best meter ever. So
I do have good meter, yes.
Yeah.
You still bang on them, Walter? You still get him out every once in a while, get the sticks out and throw it out?
Yeah, I play all the time. I'm now with the band Pat Todd and the Rank Outsiders. Pat Todd, singer-songwriter out of LA, and he used to have a punk band called the Lazy Cowgirls in LA.
Yeah.
And never did play with that band throughout RF7 or even Cold September, which they lingered for a long time. And they were cow punk, but, rock and roll band.
Yeah.
And but they were at Raji's and all those same places that we frequented all the time. I never crossed paths with that guy for some reason, but I knew that name of that band. So I joined his band about 7 years ago, and we tour Europe every couple of years, and we do Midwest tours in Texas and play in LA all the time to build a kitty. So I'm going down next week for 2 shows and recording, and
right.
So I fly down. I'm in Oregon now. I left LA like 4 years ago.
Right.
Came to Oregon.
Yeah.
So I fly down every month and play a couple of shows in LA. And we're supposed to go to Europe again this summer. So yeah, I'm still active completely.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
That's really good.
I don't think that part of me will ever die. You know,
Yeah.
that's one thing with musicians, I believe, is that it's just within this, and it's not going to ever go away. You know, we may subdue it every once in a while, or look to other avenues of performance, because I think that's
Oh
really
yeah, but yeah, I'll do it till the arthritis tells me not to. I'm a long way from that. So.
Yeah. Okay, so now we've talked about our music careers, and I think we all did a good job with our bands. I think we should be proud of all of them. We did. I thought we did, but then something
Yeah.
happened. Then something else happened. You started working at a place that made costumes for monsters, and you tell me when I get the story wrong because I don't know all the details. So you were a guy that went in there and made latex suits and things like that for monsters to wear in film and
Makeup
whatever,
effects. Yeah.
and effects. And you were so good at it that your employee noticed, wow, he's really good at it, and he's really skinny too. So we can fit a lot of outfits on him, and that's what started happening. And suddenly you weren't just a prop maker, you were a monster.
Yeah.
And your first, I know you probably did something that I don't know about, but the first thing I remember you doing was From Dusk Till Dawn,
Uh-huh.
right? And I remember going to see that movie. I went to see it a couple times because I couldn't find you. Because everything.
Yeah. You have a hard time finding me in that film.
Yeah.
Tell me you were one of the drummers. You were one of the monsters of the
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, well, makeup effects and horror movies in general, I've always liked, and kind of always been a part of my life, sort of like music. And I grew up in the '60s, so everything when I was really little was the Beatles and British invasion music and Universal monster movies, which in the '60s were really pushed towards kids. There were all kinds of merchandise, toys, and shirts.
Right.
And then you had every Friday or Saturday night, you had a late night horror host in every town that showed all those old Universal films. And so, you were a little kid growing up back then in the '60s. That was everything. Those two things. So it's always like monsters, music, and the music thing I started when I was like 7 or 8 in school. And then, that's all I want to do is be like a rock and roll guy and be a rock star and just live that life and be able to, make a living playing music. So I started really thinking about makeup effects. High school was maybe the last time I'd really played with anything, and I'd make up my friends at Halloween and stuff like that. Had a couple makeup books that, you could do some with household stuff. You could make a werewolf or a mummy or a vampire or stuff like that. And around the time in cold September, actually, around near the end of that, I started getting interested in, I started going to horror films and really seeing the effects in them. And at that point, in the 80s, was sort of the prime of makeup effects, and the guys who were doing all that stuff were their own sort of rock stars. I mean, they were all like long-haired rock and roll guys, and grew up on Black Sabbath and stuff like that, and Alice Cooper and things like that. And then they're making monsters in movies. This was like, that just seemed like the coolest thing you could ever do. So it was around that time I started really watching movies and thinking about makeup effects. And of course, the bands ended, and it was early 90s, maybe 91, 92, and I really started studying the stuff with the books I could find in the lab, which wasn't much. Now you can learn everything online in your living room.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
And, but even the early 90s was still not that much out there, a couple of books. So I started doing that on my own, and then a cousin of mine who I grew up with was working in a model shop, and he was working on the movie The Abyss, and they were building like the submarines and the And I was working on used cars at that time, repairing interiors on used cars. And I came by there and I was like, well, this looks fun. And so he got me a job there for a couple of weeks. And after that, he met a makeup guy and got him to hire me. And I kind of started that way. And after meeting one makeup guy, Scott Coulter, I met Todd Masters. We worked at his shop. And that's when I really started learning, makeup effects. Right. And started wearing suits and all that. That was like Tales from the Crypt we were working on, that early show. And wore a couple makeups in a couple episodes of that. And then there was a Chris Walken movie came through our shop, The Prophecy. And there was a little monster guy in that, so I wore the makeup in that. Wasn't really a lot to do. A couple of the Tales from the Crypt had some dialogue and other things. So, they kind of said, hey, this is better than a lot of people we put in makeup to do. Either do stunts or, kills or things like that, where they would use stunt guys or dancers who really didn't think much about, they kind of stumbled through the scenes and kind of let the suit do the acting instead of like thinking about really acting as a monster, So all the different makeup artists in town started seeing my work and started, since I knew what I was doing during the day, doing makeup effects, it became much easier to use me. And, minimal complaints, none. And I knew how stuff worked and how to get around in it and how to work blind or not being able to hear. And I lasted for a good 12 years of some cool work.
Wow.
It's like one guy, one thing would just lead to another with another shop and another owner. And some I'd work at during the day, some not.
Right.
Did you have like a spirit monster? Like you have our spirit animals, but like a spirit monster. Who was your favorite monster growing up as a kid?
Oh, that was the creature from Black Lagoon. That's my favorite, like rubber suit. I still love that. I have actually a little model kits still.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, yeah, that's always been around, But that's probably my favorite.
Yeah, werewolves. I like to identify with the werewolves. From Lon Chaney on down. There was this one cartoon called The Groovy Ghoulies and Friends. And
I remember that.
Remember that cartoon?
I love that show.
Yeah, it was a great show. Weirdo Wolfie was my guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but he was the hippie guy.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
God, Howlin' at the Moon. Yeah, I love that show.
Is it easy for you to transition from all these different monsters? You know what I mean? Where you just you put it on, you don on the suit, and then does that take you over? Does it overcome you? Do you get into the character by some sort of meditation? What is it that you do?
I'm pretty nonchalant about everything.
Okay.
And sort of just kind of live my life by winging it. Right. So I do that with everything. I do that with music. I've done that with everything. I just wing it. But I do think about it. Like if I know ahead of time, what kind of thing it's going to be. I'll think about it. Most stuff you think about animals and like animal movement, like how cats move or, vampires, I think of those as animals. You might have zombies and mummies, which are kind of almost the same thing. And you kind of think about, I guess you do meditate somewhat. I probably think about it a lot more than I say, But like a zombie or a mummy, I mean, you just kind of think about all your joints in your body, how you can not dislocate them, but make it seem that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And same with the animal stuff. You're thinking about like everything in your skeleton that moves. So every joint in your fingers, wrists, everything, And that's pretty much how I look at it. And other things like Dr. Satan, when that came up in Rob Zombie's movie, that was mostly just the look of the whole thing. And once we got on set, of course, he had these mechanical arms above his arms, and they were hooked on these lines to this body up above me with this heart that's beating in a jar. So that was very much, once I got all in the rig and everything, it was like, okay, this is a real, like, marionette kind of thing. So, I thought about being like a Pinocchio kind of marionette.
So you had to wear these costumes for hours, I would think.
Yeah.
Some of them, and so the question that came to both of us was, when you take that thing off, what what's going on with you? I mean, I can't imagine it smells good.
No, you're just pissed off.
Yeah.
Usually angry.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, usually pissed, and you get through it because you're so ready to fucking get out of the thing and go.
Yeah.
It's been annoying all day, but you have to, I'd have to reach this sort of zen place all day. And after a while, you forget about it. A lot of the things, if they're not obtrusive, something covering your mouth or your eyes or your ears, a little easier to take.
Right.
But yeah, you're first on set for 6-7 hours. I've been there 8 hours having makeup put on and body painted and stuff like that. And then most of the time I would end up laying around or walking around all day for hours. And then, we'll get to the monster at the end and the last shot of the day or something like that,
Right.
That would usually happen. Or you do some shots early in the day, which would be action shots, sit around all day, 14 hours, and then they would always go for close-ups at the end of the day, which would drive every makeup artist crazy and would drive me crazy, because at the end of the day, the mouth is peeled apart, and I've eaten
You can't,
2 or 3 times, and, it doesn't look like it did when it came out of the trailer. It was pristine.
Right.
But I've never had a close-up done like first,
right,
and then do all the, medium and far shots later.
Right.
I wonder if that's like a thing that they plan, you know what I mean? Just to like fuck with the guys, you know what I mean? Like, hey.
A lot of times they would look at that stuff as afterthoughts. Needed in the movie, but
never intentional. You wouldn't think it would be
a lot of directors, they worry about their crappy dialogue more than anything, know. And even in like a low budget or B movie, kind of thing, it's
I
spent a lot of time on stuff with actors that are okay, and it's fine, but
this is I think probably everyone asks you this question, but what was it like to work with Rob Lowe, and what was it like to work with Quentin Tarantino, and anything you want to say about those characters?
Rob Zombie?
Yeah.
I answer that question all the time. Rob's really cool and just kind of mellow.
Yeah.
And for the work that I do for him, which is not really intense acting to an extreme, sometimes that can get really intense with him with some of his actors who have more extreme things to do or lots of dialogue and stuff. But even with them, from knowing all those actors in his films, he's just real cool and mellow and plans his day out and gets his shots. And, just you come up with something or have an idea, even he's like open to it. So yeah, he's really nice. And if you do a good job for him and, you get on his bad side, you don't talk to him again. I know that.
Right.
But he's hired me, 7 times on a few of his music videos and 3 or 4 of his films. So yeah, he's cool as can be.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
I've been listening to him a lot lately. I've actually never really thought about him much until recently. Okay, I'm sorry. That thing you're hearing in the background is my emergency
life alert.
Life alert.
Uh-oh.
I have to hit if I fall down or anything, so the ambulance comes and gets me.
Yeah,
and the batteries are too low, so it's telling me, "Hey, you got to charge me back up." So.
Oh, great.
And I don't know how to stop that. It just does it. So I'm sorry that's on here now.
I barely heard it.
But anyways, okay. Well, I got to work with Quentin for almost 10 years on in his commercial division, which he did. He didn't just make movies; he made a lot of commercials too.
Okay, yeah, I knew that you started working in films around the same time I did. I think
Probably.
early '90s.
Yeah, and let me just say this first. I wasn't like working with Quentin Tarantino. I was working for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I
sure.
never saw. I saw him maybe once. You know, the rest of the
But
time.
I didn't realize that was his production company or commercial production company. That's interesting.
Yeah, A Band Apart, I think is what it was called.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and did stuff for him for years, and he had the nicest office, nicest equipment, all that stuff. And I, never hardly saw him, but it was first rate company to work for.
No, you did that one commercial with OJ and all that. I remember all
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah, sure did. Um, so let's see, what else?
Do you do any writing at all? Like, you ever thought about doing the directing, for your own monster flick, maybe?
Not necessarily.
No, not.
Directing's cool though. Yeah. I've always been interested in I like the composition of directing. I don't know about directing dialogue and people's all that stuff, but I love the composition of directing though, and like setting up. I like the camera work, setups and stuff like that. But yeah, writing and stuff. No, not really. No, I'm not much of a writer.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you still? I see now that these days you're doing. You're still acting, right? You're still getting some parts and things like that.
No, it's been a while. I mean, I started. I always continued doing makeup effects and working in shops.
Right.
So, that was the day job, and
Right.
then a lot of the acting and puppeteering and being in SAG came through that. Almost 100%.
Right.
And the last 8 years, I started working at Legacy Effects, which was formerly Stan Winston Effects, who did, of course, Dinosaurs in Jurassic Park and
Right. Wow.
Aliens and a zillion other films. And Stan, who died years ago, 4 of his employees started Legacy Effects and just continued.
Yeah.
So I was there for about 8 years, which is where I met Pat Todd and joined his band. He was the runner there forever. He was there when Stan was there.
Right.
He's 70 something and still he's the runner.
Right.
I always tell him, that leads to other jobs, don't you? He didn't know
When
that.
you say runner,
But anyways, that's how I met Pat, which was a whole crazy thing because he kind of knew Felix already. So that was another weird kismet thing that comes around, like knowing Raquel, who Steve, who's the bass player in the band. And so that was a whole other weird thing. And, I went and auditioned for the band. And, of course, I was in right away. Been in the band for 7 years now. So I spent those last 8 years at Legacy Effects up until August of 22. And we had finished doing all the makeups for Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Dungeons and Dragons. Those movies have all come out. And then they also did some of those Disney shows and a million commercials they used to do at that shop. Really busy place. And I ran all the foam latex there, which nowadays a lot of the skins and a lot of the makeups that people wear, like those main characters in Guardians that are the different aliens, are silicone material. So that's kind of a translucent material which moves a little more flesh-like than the rubber foam latex that had been around since before the Planet of the Apes in '69.
Right.
But that's what I'm an expert in. I mean, that's what was mostly used through all my years. And so I ran all the foam at that shop, which still, has to be used for things that are too heavy for silicone. Right. And so we ended with Guardians, and they closed up shop after that, I think knowing that the strike was looming. So a lot of productions got pushed back. And that was August 22. And I had already moved here to Oregon. So I drove up. I lived down there with Steve, our bass player, and would work at Legacy, live to his place while shows were going on, come back up here to Oregon when there was no work. So that ended last year, and now there's a strike, and it's still going, so nobody's doing anything.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sort of semi-retired. I mean, I'm taking my Social Security, and
Yeah.
I have a SAG pension, and bought a house here in Oregon with my sister. So kind of
Nice.
kicking back.
Well, you
Yeah.
look great. You look great, Walter. You look young. You know, you
Yeah, thanks, man.
You definitely don't look like a retiree.
No.
No, I know.
He's
No.
wearing latex
64.
all day. We'll do that.
Still doing it early, but
Yeah.
it's not too early for me.
Yeah.
60 is the new 40, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've worked enough years. You know, that's enough.
Okay, and these costumes, you don't get to keep them by any chance, do you? Or you don't have like a big
No, well,
closet.
the foam that they're made out of all just deteriorates. It's all, natural latex rubber.
Yeah.
So it all deteriorates after a while.
Right.
And I saved a few things. I saved some props here and there. Years ago, I sold a bunch of stuff to a collector, right? Bunch of stuff, scripts around.
Right.
Every time I'd move, I'd have all this junk to move. And I was like, that's enough of that.
That's great. Well, listen, we want to thank you for coming on. We're going to have to wind it up here. But
all right. Well,
yeah.
Thanks for having me. It was really fun talking to you again, Joe.
Yeah.
And, it's been years.
Maybe you can come back when we get something going here and something else you want to tell people. We'd love to have you back, and we'd love to have you come visit us up here in the high desert. I'm sure we could make a special presentation of you somewhere.
Yeah, we're always trying to get booked in the club, but we're not big enough for some reason to play out there.
No way. It was a pleasure.
We just don't have the right connection. I don't believe that, but whatever.
Yeah.
Because our guitar player, one of our guitar players lives up there. He has a house up there in the desert. Kevin Keller.
Oh, I'm not sure I know him, but
he spends half his time up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I
he has an LA house too.
Yeah.
A lot of alien, fans and fanatics and sightings up here in the desert.
Yeah.
It's funny. I moved to McMinnville, Oregon, which is a small rural town, about an hour and 10 minutes south of Portland. And so it's like the wine country valley, and there's a bunch of other, corn and farmlands everywhere. It's kind of cool. And it's the second biggest alien celebration in the United States, which is bizarre.
Oh my God.
Found that out when I moved up here.
Right.
So they have a really kooky parade each year, and all kinds of meetings and other things. A couple of farmers, a man and his wife, they saw spaceships a long time ago. But it's the second biggest one besides Roswell or out in the desert.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Wow, that's just crazy.
Well, crop circles, man. That's
yeah.
What they like that.
Well, listen, we're really glad, really honored to have you on the show.
It was a pleasure.
And,
it was a pleasure.
And it was great. And it's great to see you again. You're looking great as always. And
well, I'm glad. I hope you're doing good too, Joe. I follow you all the time online.
Yeah. I'm fine. I'm doing fine. I'm fine. I'm just a little slow.
Joe's got the best attitude.
How was Mexico and all that?
What's that?
Did you go down there and film?
I've been down to Mexico so many times that I don't need to go down there. I know where I'm going. I know what to do. I know who to hook up with. I have people that I know down there. So I'm just waiting on a new passport because I lost my old one. And as soon as this one gets here, I'll be southbound. And
all right.
And I can't wait. I really can't wait. I've lived in the United States my whole life, so it'd be nice to get out and change.
I know, boy.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. And, of course, everyone, can come down and see me if you want. Just let me know you're coming.
I just show up.
Yeah, just show up. Just let me know so I can clean up the house before you get there.
All right. Well, I'm glad you're doing okay. You always seem like you're in good spirits, which is amazing. And
it's a challenge.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, it's a challenge, but getting there and grateful for the things I have and that I'm still able to talk, still see. Yeah. I can still see. That was a big one, and so I'll be all right. All right. There's a lot of people with worse things. So great to see you. Thanks for coming on. I don't go away yet. Don't go away yet. I'm going to turn off the recording, but I need to get a couple of pictures real quick, and then with that. So,
All right.
anybody's, ladies and gentlemen, that's Walter PHELAN.
Walter PHELAN. everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, you guys. All right. Good night.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, here we go.